I've had a few people ask questions about getting a tall, narrow mug. So when we start with pinch bowls, we kind of make a rounded shape. They're bowls, right? But there are several ways you can get to this tall shape. So one of those ways is that you can add a coil. And of course, you have added coils for feet, maybe for rims, but we can add coils to add some height. Now, I haven't bothered to score and slip this coil, but I want you to notice what's happening with my fingers. The coil is slightly either on top or slightly on the inside, and as I shape it, I'm pulling up on the outside while my inside finger is pushing down. Now, you can't really see that inside finger pushing down because I've got the camera at the wrong angle, but that inside finger is doing this, essentially, while the outside finger works on the outside like this. Now, the neat thing about pinch potting is that you can control the shape just with your fingers. But of course that takes some practice, right? That takes some getting used to. So I've added a coil all the way around. It's not perfect yet. I haven't smoothed it everywhere. But notice that my shape has gone from the wide beginning mostly straight up. And that has to do with the amount of pressure on the inside relative to the amount of pressure on the outside. So when I'm pushing down on the inside and pushing up on the outside, that naturally tends to angle the clay towards an upward kind of shape. Now, that's not the only way you can do it. And sometimes when you're adding a coil, you've got clay here. The beginning clay is a little dry, in which case you're going to want to score that. And I'm doing this morning, and I'm sorry, I didn't grab some slip. Let's see, there's some. And I don't know where my brush is, so the old school method. So when you add a coil, directly on top like this, one of the things to watch out for is it's going to be a little bit wet. But this is not going to require you to do as much pulling up, right? Because this clay down here might be stiffer. But you can still add that coil rather than adding it directly on top. Let me pull this off. Rather than adding it kind of on the outside like this, or directly on top, you can lean it slightly towards the inside, and that's going to also tend to have your coil going straight up. So make sure you score and slip, make sure you get that attached onto there. And then I'm going to let this one sit a bit before I smooth it out. Now, one more approach you might take for a tall, narrow piece like that, and that is to begin with much more downward pressure, and rather than allowing it to stretch out in the first place, work your shaping with more pressure on the outside. So as I squeeze my thumbs on the inside aren't working quite as hard as my fingers on the outside. And so my outside fingers are pulling it up and toward me as I go. Now, again, all of these take a lot of practice, and I'm able to do this pretty quickly because I've been practicing this for, half my lifetime or longer, I guess, now that I think of it. And so, 20 some years of practicing this makes me pretty quick with it. But the principles are ones that you can practice and you can develop. I'm pulling more on the outside, and I'm able to feel where I've got extra thickness, so I'm able to pull some of this clay up with me. Now, it helps that if your clay is fairly wet, if your clay has started to get leather hard, it's going to be harder to move the clay quite so slickly. But still, you're looking for those extra pressure points. At this point, I've got some thickness down in this bottom corner, and I'm actually pushing out a little bit to make kind of a flat bottom. So I've pulled up the walls before I've widened out this bottom. And that's going to allow me to do a shape that's like this. Now, you can see I've got some more thickness up at the top that I can start to pull up, more pressure on the outside, but I'm not going to reach the height of this guy without adding some extra clay, right? Either I could do another pinch bowl and put them together and open it up, or I could do coils to attach onto there. Nice thing about pinch pots as well, you don't have to do a full-on coil. If I attach this, notice I'm attaching it slightly on the inside. If I attach this little piece, I don't even have to roll coils. I can attach sort of bits and bobs, little pieces of clay, and that'll help me build that up. I'm gonna have to come back in through and make sure things are smooth on the inside, particularly if I want to drink out of this, but that gets me my shape built up fairly quick.